Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 12th episode of Header Footer Presents. Finally made it to a year. Um, so today's episode is going to be an interview with ChatGPT on new media, what it thinks, and our reactions to it. But before we go on with that, let's talk about the mission of the gallery and the New Media Caucus. So, Header Footer Gallery is part of the New Media Caucus and is dedicated to promoting the creative output of our members by situating their work in thoughtfully curated exhibitions that take place across our entire web presence. New Media Caucus is an international nonprofit association formed to promote the development and understanding of new media art. We represent and serve artists, designers, practitioners, historians, theorists, educators, students, and scholars. Recognizing new media art to be inherently interdisciplinary, multimodal, and evolving, we support and advance a wide range of inquiry to catalyze further evolution of the field. The New Media Caucus is committed to extending and sustaining the diversity of our community, board, and membership, to promote an environment of equality, inclusion, and respect for difference. We prioritize inclusion as an ongoing collaborative process of growth that we continually address, both within the caucus and in our field. So with that said, first of all, joining me is Constanza Salazar, who is actually now Dr. Constanza Salazar. Officially,
Thank
she
you.
has her diploma. So,
Hey!
yay! That's finally all those
After
years.
so many years, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is. It is an achievement, and you should be congratulated for it as
Thank you
many
so
times as
much.
possible. Anyhow, so here's how it's gonna go. We are gonna go and look at ChatGPT. For those that don't know, this is an OpenAI artificial intelligence. There's no real true artificial intelligence. This is a
I love your
learning model.
quotations.
Yeah, a lot of quotations in intelligence. Uh,
Definitely.
but they do some impressive things and some concerning things. But this time we're more concerned not with the generative abilities of it as art, but rather as knowledge generators, which is what ChatGPT does. And one of the things I've noticed is, and I've used it to do some things, letters that are like really short, like form things where you don't really want to waste time. And it is a useful tool, but I can see how a lot of people could lose their jobs. But
Yeah.
right now, we're interested in the other thing. Anything you want to add to that?
No, other than students have been using ChatGPT, not so much in my classes, but I have heard from my colleagues that students have been using it and they've caught it somehow. So I'd be really interesting to see how ChatGPT works and sort of its parameters, but also see, where there's some little loopholes and things like that. That's always really interesting for me in technology to find those things out, right?
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, one last thing is one of the concerns I've heard with professors is like they're going to write their essays in this thing, and it's like the only people they're hurting is themselves. Honestly, and this is something I think we need to realize more is us making them write those essays. It doesn't really matter if they don't learn from it, and if they don't learn from it because of what they did, the only people that they're going to get their passing degree, their passing grade, but once they get to the actual real
Real
world
world.
and everybody's going to notice that they know nothing. So I really am not concerned. I was more concerned with plagiarism, like actual
Mhm.
plagiarism.
Yeah, of course.
Like the student that submitted my dissertation, one of my dissertation chapters for my PhD as their essay.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
concerning to me. Yeah, that
Did they
was.
know it was you? No, they couldn't have
No, of
known.
course he didn't because he found it in English. He didn't even look at the names.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
ridiculous.
yeah, I was reading. It's like these are really good points, and then it's like, wait a minute, I've said this multiple times. Oh my god, it is me. Yeah, he just ran it to Google Translate.
Oh my
It was, yeah, it was terrible. Anyhow, so our first question, and it's one that everybody asks you is, what do you think of the art world? Like, what is it? So let's see what ChatGPT tells us. Okay, nice
God.
disclaimer. Okay, let's. I'm gonna let it finish
Yeah, I
because I
can
have
read it.
to read it out. Wow,
Oh
wow,
wow.
it's a whole essay here. Oh wow, look at this. This is so. First of all, it gives us a disclaimer. As an AI, I don't possess personal opinions or emotions, so I can't have thoughts or feelings in the same way humans do. However, I can provide information and insight about the art world. Oh, insight. Then it says the art world is a vast and diverse realm encompassing various forms of creative expression, including visual arts, literature, music, theater, dance, and more. It serves as a platform for artists to convey their ideas, emotions, and perspectives, often sparking discussions and provoking thought among viewers and participants.
Mm-hmm.
The art world is known for its subjectivity and the diversity of artistic styles and movements. It embraces both traditional and contemporary art forms, and it constantly evolves as new ideas and techniques emerge. It can be a place of experimentation, exploration, and boundary pushing, challenging societal norms and conventions. Art plays a significant role in culture and society, reflecting the beliefs, values, and concerns of different communities and historical periods. It has the power to inspire, provoke, and evoke emotions, and it often serves as a means of communication and storytelling. Moreover, the art market is a virtual component of the art world. These artworks are bought and sold and exhibited, creating a complex ecosystem of galleries, museums, collectors, and auction houses. I want to hear your thoughts, Doctor.
This is hilarious. I mean, so just for context, I give my students a visual analysis paper for them to write. What I've noticed in some examples that some professors have given me of students using ChatGPT, right, is that they like to talk around the answer and not come to the answer itself. So it seems like it's very fluff is what's going on here, right? And it doesn't get to a specific point. And that's very obvious from, both of us who have been doing research for a long time, have been writing for a long time. It's full of fluff and does not get to the point where as you want it to, right? So there's a word for that. I'm trying to think about what it is. It circles around what it's supposed to answer, which I found very interesting. So immediately, if a student had presented this to me, he or she would not have done very well immediately.
Well, there's no opinion.
That's just me though. I'm a tough grader.
It's not an opinion. That's the thing. But it tells us this. Like I do not have opinions. I mean, there's like a level of definition in it, but it's the thing is, how do you define the art world? It's a system of like things, and it's complicated to give an answer in a way. I don't know. It could have fooled me. Maybe I would have thought, maybe it's interesting. I don't know.
You know what we're doing, right? We're doing the Turing test in a version of it right now. Seeing if ChatGPT can fool us into, thinking, oh yeah, this could pass as an actual answer from a human or something like that. Right?
Like it passes an actual answer from a human. It just doesn't give you an opinion of what they think about the art world. Exactly. Yeah. So it does read like it's very obvious. It's been fed like a lot of like essays from like undergrads, and it's giving that level of reading comprehension.
Yeah, it's regurgitating all that information. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I
don't like what it says about the art world. It's like, I mean, the art market, that's an entirely different conversation. It just glosses over it. Exactly. But things. Okay, let's do another one. Oh my God. It's gonna give me the same disclaimer. Let's just change it a little bit to is.
Yes.
Is new media art? I fed it the question. Oh, it's here. Ooh, we stumbled it.
This sounds like a Wikipedia taken from it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it's going into my field. Okay. Oh, I just noticed something. Okay, I'm going to show you this.
Yes, new media art is considered a form of art. New media art refers to artworks that utilize digital technologies, computer programming, and interactive media in their creation and presentation. It often incorporates elements such as computer graphics, virtual reality, video art, internet-based art, interactive installations, and other emerging technologies. New media art emerged in the later half of the 20th century, and as artists began to explore the creative possibilities offered by computers and digital technologies. It represents a departure from traditional art forms and embraces the unique characteristics and capabilities of new media. One of the defining aspects of new media is its interactivity. Many new media artworks invite active participation from viewers, allowing them to engage with the artwork, manipulate it, or even become part of the artwork itself. This interactive nature blurs the boundaries between the artist, the artwork, and the audience. New media art often challenges established norms and conventions, pushing the boundaries of what is considered art. It explores the themes related to technology, society, identity, and the relationship between humans and machines. By incorporating digital tools and technologies, new media artists are able to experiment with new forms of expression and create immersive and dynamic experiences. Like any other form of art, the interpretation and appreciation of new media art can vary widely among individuals. Some may embrace its innovative and cutting-edge nature, while others may find it unfamiliar or challenging. Nonetheless, new media art has gained recognition within the art world, and it continues to evolve and expand as technology advances and new artistic possibilities emerge. Interesting. Take it
Yeah.
away. Yes. What do you think?
It's an okay definition. I think it's not the more like it's a very limited definition in the way I think of it, but I think for most people it may be an okay answer.
I agree. I think for people like us that are more specialized in the field, it is a little bit, it's not so specific, right? It lacks specificity. But yes,
Mm.
for the average person, right, that maybe doesn't have too much interaction, with the field itself, um, that is something that they could learn from, for sure. But it also reads like a Wikipedia article,
It
honestly.
does. Honestly, I think it reads better than the Wikipedia article.
That's fair.
So there's a thing here, and this is something I'm actually writing a definition of new media art for an encyclopedia.
Yay.
And one of the things I came to the conclusion to is that new media is not only computers, because
Yeah.
then you're limiting it by like saying, well, bio art is not new media, but you see a lot of bio art in new media conferences and conversations. And yeah, it uses computers to a degree, but I don't think that's the point. I think new media art nowadays should be more defined as anything that's post-industrial revolution.
Ooh, interesting.
Like any media that is post-industrial revolution counts as new media in terms of and it uses post-revolution industrial revolution technology, so photography, video, film,
Sound,
sound, audio, bio art, and many other things that we cannot imagine. So going to that, it says emerges at the later half of the 20th century. But the thing is, photography, without photography, 1946, more or less, you don't have new media art. Like it's a thing. I don't know in the US, but in the UK where I studied, all of us came from photography. Like Beryl Graham, Sarah Cook, what's her name? Oh my God, Alexandra, Alex. I always call her Alex, and she's Greek. It's a very complicated last name. But all of us were photographers at some time of our lives. We all studied photography. So
that's really cool. And just a disclaimer, it's very difficult to provide a definition, even as someone who's specialized like yourself, right, in the field like this. It's super difficult. I don't know how long it's taken you thus far. You've been telling me to write it.
Yeah, it took me a year to just come with
there you go. See, this is just so you know.
yeah, no, it's a complicated answer, and that's why I'm like, okay, it's decent.
Yeah,
I've heard worse definitions from universities.
Yeah.
So let's just put it that way.
So this passes. This gets a B+ in my opinion.
It also mentions Dietz, Steve Dietz. With one of the defining aspects of new media is its interactivity, and that's one of the three behaviors that Dietz sets for what is new media art, which is interactivity, connectivity, and computability. Which again, it's the old definition, which is all computer based. That's why I think I add post-industrial revolution technologies in there. But it is interesting that it's mentioning it as one of the defining aspects, just as most new media artists, some new media experts qualify it. So that's good. I would like to hear the other aspects.
Definitely, because interactivity is not the only one, for sure. And it does go into a little bit for that. Can you elaborate?
Defining, because it remembers what you asked it. So
I see.
Editing my answers. But let's finish and then we can ask it that.
Yeah.
What else do you?
Let me see. I think it's very optimistic about how it's been received in the art world. That's the other thing. There's a really good paper by Edward Shanken who talks about the digital and contemporary art divide and how that's still the case. So I don't know. I find that a little bit debatable in terms of how well it has been accepted by the art world. Maybe as of late, maybe. I'm still a little bit wary of that. What do you think about that?
I was gonna mention one work that it's your favorite artwork at the Met.
Oh no, with the mat.
Oh, sorry, not the Met, the MoMA.
The
Uh,
MoMA.
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, the lava lamp.
The lava lamp. So that's it's not called a lava lamp, but everybody that's new media art is like that's a lava lamp.
It's horrific
Basically
Anadol's.
by Refik. Exactly.
Yeah.
The fact it's at MoMA and it was in the big hall and it's this gigantic thing. I think, and you're gonna hate this. It's a watershed moment.
Watershed moment.
Like it's starting to mark like this is now finally considered art by the big players. I mean, we had a video game exhibition, but it was from the design approach, which is something that I always notice.
We went to see it at the MoMA,
Yeah,
no?
exactly. Yeah. But also you have now the Rafik Anadol lava lamp, and I think that changes things a little bit in terms of how people, because not calling people sheep. I'm just saying people tend to go with trends, and when they see things
Oh yeah.
in popular places,
Yes.
they're like, "Oh, this is art," right?
Yeah.
You
I
always have like
No, that's really good. I think for me, the artwork that really inspires me the most, and it's so not idealistic, but I don't know, it's just a personal thing, is that which begs you to question, is this actually art or can it be considered part of art? I find that there's a lot, it can be very generative in that regard, right? But the lava lamp, which I actually went to see it, it's beautiful. It really is. It's just very, how do I describe it? I think Jerry Salt said it best, right? The complexities behind the work get lost in its visual forms, and you cannot appreciate, like, you cannot comprehend. It's almost like this Kantian thing. Oh no, that you
you might
cannot
want to find
comprehend.
that.
No, but you can't comprehend the complexity behind it, and you cannot appreciate it because of the way that it's become like a spectacle almost. And that's just my take on it.
I agree and I disagree.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, so as new media art people, we love seeing the cables, the wires, the connections,
Yeah.
the gut
Yeah.
of the machine, and we think of that as part of the thing. But as I've been involved in curation and in conservation of new media art, I've given up on those things
Yeah.
because this is mostly me, but I know people in the field think about, I like believe this thing as well. The artwork in new media art does not happen at the level of, oh, you touch the screen, you touch the keyboard or the mouse or the touch screen or whatever, and the actual interaction in new media art is happening between you and the code. The body of the thing is inconsequential to a degree. The sooner we accept that as new media experts, the easier and better it'll be for new media conservation, because then
Yeah.
we will be allowing, oh, the mouse doesn't work, let's get a new one. This is something that conservation departments have a big issue with. Like, oh, but you gave the mouse. The mouse is an artifact. No, it's not no, it's not an artifact. It's a input-output device.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So we get lost on the physicality of something that is not physical.
Yeah.
And there are works that really need it, but even things like, you remember that robot that kills itself with when it cannot wipe the fluid into itself?
Yes. It's by this duo artist. Anyway, yes, I know
Yeah.
exactly which one you're talking about.
So in
Can't help
traditional
myself.
conservation, they would look at the arm and be like, okay, we cannot turn this on anymore ever again because it's going to break and it's going to damage the artwork and blah, blah, blah. But then, and they turn it off, and then you have like this frozen thing. It means nothing. It loses all its significance. If you accept that it's a thing, that the arm is just a means, like the equivalent of a TV in video art, the sooner you'll be able to say, okay, we can replace the arm. There's a new model. As long as it does the same thing,
Yes.
it's fine. So that's my thing with that.
No, I understand that. I mean, I have a friend from South Korea, and she's a curator and conservator too. And she has done research on the work by Namjoon Park. And, she would often tell me how difficult it is to conserve the old CRT televisions, right? Because that's the original way that the artist wanted to. have the artwork displayed, especially with his synthesizer and just, the works that he would create.
Yeah.
And that's a whole very interesting debate about that, right? I think to a degree, there is some works that definitely require you to have that old
Oh yeah.
platform technology, whatever you want to call it. But there are some works that whose message or whose point can move beyond the physicality of it, right? Definitely.
Yeah. It's a case like case.
Yeah, I guess my issue with what I found with Refik Anadol's work is that so he uses data from the MoMA archives, right, of the works that have been in circulation and all that stuff. There are some moments where you see through the blobs and the things and the images, the impressions that it creates, is something that appears to be like a Van Gogh, something that appears to be like a Malevich, something that appears to be et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where it's not that I'm wanting to see the physicality of it. It's more of it its understandability is sometimes lost, and it just becomes a spectacle of images and impressions and things like that. So it's no different from something else that does not have the complexity of an AI system. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
At the same time, you have to ask yourself. I mean, if you look at Rafik and Adol's work, it's very visual. Yes, it's
Yeah,
that driven, but it's very visual. It's very spectacular.
it is.
I don't think Rafik cares about people seeing where things come. He just wants to create an emotion, an impression, a feeling. And whatever we think about the lava lamp, it achieves that.
Yeah,
And
it
so
does.
does the Casabatlo thing, which is, I think it's even more of a level lamp. I'm not a fan of Rafik Anadol, but I can see where he's going with things. Like, I can
Yeah,
appreciate the fact that it's a very visual thing, and that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about you seeing, oh, I drew this code and it generated this. He doesn't care about that. He just wants to create, oh, this thing is morphing between works that are here in the MoMA. And I think that's the whole point of the lava lamp. It is literally a lava lamp. And we do say it derisively, but I think at the same time, it's a recognition of what he wanted to do. Like,
that's fair.
we
It
call
just
that that's right.
Yeah, no, but I think to Jerry Salt's point, who's like an art critic, right? That
Yeah.
he's the one that critiqued the work in an article. There's something that has to be said about works that you look at it for a couple of seconds and you move, past it,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's it, right? That's kind of it. It becomes very superficial. And I think the superficiality is hard to understand when it's such a complicated work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but in any case, interesting piece, nevertheless. Nevertheless.
Anything else from here?
No, I think we we
Oh yeah, the
branched
last
out
thing.
into
Like any other art form, interpretation and appreciation of new media can be very widely amount. No, new media art often challenges established norms and conventions. That's literally what it said about the art world above.
oh really? So
Yeah,
it's
so it
reusing a
takes
similar, yeah,
snippets. Yeah, I think that it takes like bits of text that it's recognized, and then it kind of sort of, like when your students are trying to paraphrase.
paraphrase.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels like that. Okay, let's ask it to elaborate. Let's see what it says. So I like the conversationality of it, like certainly here are some defining aspects. Whoa, buddy, stop. What?
Wow,
Wow. Okay. We're already to 5. Some of
that's
what I'm
really
seeing.
cool.
Yeah.
Open source culture. Interesting.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's good. See, good. Okay, there we go.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah. You want to read it?
Sure, yeah.
Read the next one.
The ChatGPT says, certainly, here are some defining aspects of new media art. Use of digital technologies. Do you want me to read all of it or just like
Uh,
the titles?
just the titles, yeah.
Okay, so number one, use of digital technology. So blah, 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 artists leverage these tools to create, manipulate, and present their artworks. Number two, interactivity, which is something we already talked about, right? Number three, multidisciplinarity approach. So this is where new media integrates all these different aspects and disciplines and technologies as well to create the artworks. Number four, exploration of technology and society. So this is probably something that it's thinking along the lines of much more reflective and how it interacts with society and topics like surveillance, identity, digital age, and stuff like that. Number five, evolving and dynamic nature. So something that is ever evolving and dynamic and the continuous experimentation that pushes the boundaries of what is possible. And number 6, collaboration and open source culture. This is really fascinating, actually. Number 6, where it says, this one I'll read. It says, new media art thrives on collaboration and embraces an open source culture. Artists frequently collaborate with programmers, engineers, designers, and other experts to bring their artistic visions to life. They may also share their knowledge, techniques, and software tools with others, fostering a sense of community and encouraging further exploration of the field. I find this interesting because for my research, I did a lot of work on internet art and the of hackers and open source culture and open source code, right? But I do see of an instance, there's probably very various ones, where the famous, again, general adversarial network artworks by Not Obvious, I think, or Obvious, I think is what the group was called. They created the portrait of Bellamy, and it was a series of portraits of a family, like a family tree, if you want to call it like that. They were all done in the style of like, I would say 17th century, like European artworks. But the thing that was most problematic about it is that they stole the code, the open source code, but didn't attribute it to the original creator of the code. And what's interesting is that that person and then other people as well have adopted that same code. I'm going to say adopted. Adopted that same code to create very similar looking images. So it becomes very derivative at the same time, which I find really fascinating. And that should be an entire thing all in itself, in my opinion. But I don't know, what are you thinking about this?
I don't think it's defining the characteristics of new media art as much as it's the scene around new media art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? So it's things like, okay, it uses digital technologies. Yeah, sure. It's interactive. Yeah, we mentioned that. It's multidisciplinary. Yeah, that's the thing. Exploration of technology is like it's ironically a very human definition.
It is. It is ironically. Yes.
I don't know how to explain this to people, but okay. So when I talk about like the aspects in terms of deeds, it's like computability. Okay, so it's something that uses computational processes to modify and alter something or generate it, and that's one of the core characteristics of new media art, as Dietz and Christian Paul see it. The other one, and Barrelgram, and the other one is connectivity. So it's this idea of getting information from other things. So it connects to a sensor, it connects to a camera, it connects you to something else. So those are very programmatic things. Like, I don't know how to say this. Like,
yeah. Are you saying that this definition or these 5 different points or 6, however many there were, it lacks specificity and it's a little bit more nebulous and a little bit more like oversimplified, maybe is the better word for it.
Yeah, to a point, yeah, but I think they're more human focused.
Human focused.
Like the other ones are technical things. It's like, this is computability, and you can quantify it. This is computability, and this is networking, and this is interactivity, and you can pinpoint exactly what it is out of them. And when I add the thing like post-industrial revolution technologies, and you can pinpoint, okay, yeah, this didn't exist before. Whereas this thing is more about like collaboration and the feelings and the thoughts behind right? Because not every work is multidisciplinary.
Not every work is open source. Definitely.
Not every work is open source. Not every work explores the technology, ironically.
Yeah, some are just material aspects of it, actually. It's very...
Yeah, exactly. So something like Gilberto Prado, his work, like if you ask him about his new media artwork, you will never, ever get a response from him that talks about technology.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care about technology at all. What he cares about is what it does.
What it does, exactly.
Achieves that through technology, yes. But in his discourse, he's never going to mention, so I used this server and I connected it to this Ruby script, and then it drew from these Arduino sensors, and it does this. He will never ever mention anything of like that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, he
I
always talks about
I
the products.
Yeah, no, that actually reminds me. I have a friend who studies technology and like Latin American art, and there's a specific artist whose name right now I don't remember it too well. Anyway, she would tell me that this artist would use robotics, but they wouldn't talk about robotics in the same way that we contextualize this in the history of like, let's say American robotics and art and stuff like that, right? Or the UK, right? Because those were two very big places
Mhm.
where robotics sort of evolved. But this Latin American artist, I think he was also indigenous. And the point is, talking about robotics in a different context is very difficult, right? Because you do not necessarily get rid of the context of like historical UK, American, all that stuff, but it becomes like you were saying about Gilberto Prado, right? It becomes something other than that. It becomes something about what the thing can do rather than what it talks about, its history and place and time and stuff like that, which I find really interesting too. So I think that's something to consider, right? When you,
Well,
this is also very specific to a place and time, right? That these definitions are coming from and will not adhere or will not represent, for example, Asian new media art, for example, Latin
yeah.
American new media art, or etc. Things like that.
Yeah, there's two things in what you just said. Like when you say like American British robotics as opposed to Latin American robotics, like one of the things Mexico has is some of the best robotics teams in the world. Like they win competitions constantly. Like there's a university, like one of the universities, Tecnológico de Monterrey.
Hmm.
They keep winning robot Olympics,
Yeah,
but it's one of the richest universities in the world. They literally get like so much funding through technology, but they're very focused on technology and science. They don't care about arts. They don't collaborate with artists mostly.
yeah.
And that leaves us to two things. Mexican new media artists tend to be much more, there's this thing called Mexican ingenuity. That's how we call it. And it's basically that you fix things with rubber bands and bubble gum.
Okay,
And that's because of lack of resources and technology.
sure.
So no, because like things are expensive. Like somebody stole a part of my car and it's 24,000 pesos, which is nothing for an American, but for us, it's like, for me, it's like 3 months' pay.
Yeah,
So it's a lot of money. So that forces us to use things that already exist. So it's a more like, it's a very steampunk thing. That's the first
do you yourself? Do it yourself? DIY.
DIY.
No.
Yeah, do it yourself. Yeah, exactly. It's very DIY. It's very much more about mixing things and making them work together rather than
Scrappy. You're scrappy.
yeah, it was scrappy, exactly. Literally with scraps. Like, and it makes different new media art. Actually, we
Yeah,
can do a paper on this. Um,
good.
it
That's so
ends
interesting.
up pushing all this thing. It's very different from when you can go to a research lab, work with a university, and say, I want one of those robotic arms. And I want like a 65-inch TV. And I want to code this thing. It's going to take like 3 years of professional coding. And that's not going to happen in Mexico, like ever. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully it happens in the future, but right now it's not going to happen.
yeah.
And I see it like for example with Charlotte Tribus, who I talk a lot with, and she's like, oh yeah, I just got this robot thing. Oh, I'm working with OpenAI and doing
Yeah.
like things. And to me as a Mexican, it's like Jesus, but to her, it's like, you know,
It's exactly. That's the not the problem, but that's the differences in resources, right? And
yeah.
accessibility that we have. And we should write a paper because there's a really interesting, I'm excited now. There's a really interesting sort of movement going on by a group in Africa. And they actually use scraps like e-waste and stuff like that. And they use it to create all these really interesting performative pieces with technology and media. And what it does by using being scrappy, essentially, is recontextualizing the origin of where these things come from, right? And their histories and to create new things, which I found really cool and generative. But yes, more on that later.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, and the other thing is, and I think everybody who listens to this, they should keep that in mind. A lot of new media artists don't know anything about technology. They don't know a lot about coding. Their work is mostly coming up with ideas
Yes, yes, that's
and
true.
then finding the right people. And that's where the collaborative open source thing comes from.
Yeah,
Some art media artists are like, well, I have this really cool idea. I don't know how to do it. I will find a network that helps me, and we're gonna make it.
yeah,
So what that means is, if you have an idea that you want to do with technology, you don't have to be the one that codes it, builds it, and furnishes it.
yeah,
You can be the idea person, and as long as you credit everyone as co-creators, and that's important. It's co-creators. Like coders are not employees in the media art.
yeah, yeah.
They're artists for you as well. So once you manage that, you can do whatever you want.
Do you think that's changing though? Do you think that's a good question for you, I think. Because I've talked to some new media artists and they seem, from my perspective, to be more involved in the actual creation, like the soldering, all of that stuff of the new media project that they're working on. Do you think that's changing in terms of specialization, maybe?
Well, there's always one psychopath that wants to do everything. Uh, I mean, I say that as I run a podcast and a gallery and all these things at the same time without like getting a full staff of people that actually know how to do it. But there, it gets to a breaking point. Like you can only do so much, and then you can only build within what you can do.
Yeah,
Whereas if you work with a team, you can do much more
yeah,
and
definitely.
better because
It's so
I cannot
fascinating.
be the best coder and the best graphic designer and the best builder and the best everything. I have to find people who are better. So
Yeah,
it holds to a degree, and at the lower scale of things, you see like really amazing things. Like, for example, I'm gonna use video games, but like there's this game called Deep Rock Galactic, nothing artistic at all, but it's a game that's got won like multiple awards. It's very well made. Graphics are fantastic. The bugs got fixed in like days, and it's for people.
yeah,
Whereas you have things like Skyrim, who's like one of the buggiest games known to man, and it's like a team of like 200. Yeah, sometimes you can get like these very passionate people, but even that, it's for people, right?
yeah.
Um, Minecraft was one person for a
Mhm.
while. Too bad he turned out to be a Nazi. Um, no, yeah, literally a Nazi. It was a big thing. He got kicked out of his own company. But yeah, so you can have that person that does everything and it can generate things, but it's not healthy for the person. Let's begin with that.
Yeah, 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 of course.
Second of all, there's one of those in a million, and if you're not one of them, doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I think that's the message that we should drive. Like there are people that do it all on their own, but it's not something that should stop you.
Yeah,
I think that's more the thing.
yeah, 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 for sure. We should go on with the next questions, I
Yeah,
think, right?
sure. Is technology neutral? Oh, that's you. That's a
I
philosopher.
know that is so me. So yeah,
Uh, yeah, let's
yeah,
kick it.
this question comes from Lyndon Winner, and I wonder if they're going to, aha, good. Let me see. I'm curious now. Are they going to quote him or something like that? Because there's been a discussion that has been going on since for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Langdon Winner was the one that wrote about it in 1980. Do artifacts have politics, I believe? And I'm always curious to see, the self-reflection that a technology like
Oh, so
ChatGPT that can actually do. So let's see. Do you want to
okay.
read it?
No,
Yeah.
I'll read this one. You've read two in a row.
Go,
Okay.
go, go ahead.
So the question of whether technology is neutral is a subject of debate and depends on different perspectives. Here are two contrasting viewpoints. Technological neutrality. Some argue that technology itself is neutral, devoid of inherent moral or ethical qualities. According to this viewpoint, technology is merely a tool or a means to an end, and its impact or ethical implications depend on how it's used by humans. In this sense, technology is seen as a neutral enabler that can be employed for both positive and negative purposes, depending on human intentions and actions. The
Mhm.
other one, technological determinism, on the other hand, argues that technology is not neutral but possesses inherent biases or influences. Proponents of this view suggest that technology is not simply a tool but shapes and influences society, culture, and human behavior. They argue that technologies carry certain values, assumptions, and consequences embedded within them, which can have significant social, political, and economic impacts. From this perspective, technology is not neutral but shapes and defines our choices and possibilities.
But this is the most important part. Please read that because it's like the technology itself is responding to this question, which I find so meta. Anyway, go, 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 go.
Okay, it's important to note that technology itself does not have agency or consciousness. It is created and controlled by humans. However, the design, development, and application of technology can have wide-ranging effects on individuals, communities, and society as a whole. The ethical implications of technology can arise from factors such as biases in algorithms, nice, privacy concerns, environmental impact, employment displacement, and more. Station itself. Databases on technological neutrality highlight the need for critical examination, responsible design, and ethical considerations when developing and implementing technology. It is crucial to consider the potential consequences and societal impacts of technology, as well as to ensure that its development aligns with human values, ethical principles, and the well-being of individuals and communities. Oh my God, have I got tea about these last two paragraphs? But go.
Please. No, go ahead. Go.
Okay.
Go.
So
I'm so excited.
the reason I have access to ChatGPT and the other one, basically I have access to all the OpenAI technologies.
How come?
Because when I was in Barcelona, I participated in a panel with OpenAI people, and they gave us access. And we talked about this on the retrospective, and we told
it. Oh, nice. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, hey, play with this thing. And everybody was like, but have you considered the ethics of this? Have you considered that you're asking us to do free labor? Have you considered us to do that? So basically, they were murdered by words by a bunch of new media experts and AI experts and computer experts and all kind of experts. And this is literally all of the points that were raised on that conversation. And in fact, OpenAI didn't used to have all this. They would just say like, oh, we will be very careful with how we do things, and we're not going to allow certain things, and yada, yada, yada. And you can still get blocked if you ask certain things. You can lose your access. Obviously, then Elon Musk screwed them over, because always. And that's why they went private. It's Elon Musk's fault, because he couldn't get his name as the creator of OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why OpenAI went corporate. Well, like big business kind of thing, but that's a whole different thing. Anyhow, that's the actual like points that we were raising in that conversation. Go.
I'm really excited. I'm so happy I asked it that. Because it's something that I use, like, it's one of the first essays I give my students to read in my introduction to digital art history. And it literally, like, there's these, like, the two debates that it actually identified were very interesting. Yes, and I want to see if they actually quote Langdon Winner. This
I just asked you for this.
Yeah, I know, right? This is so fun. It's like presenting an essay without any footnotes or, sources or anything like that, which is I find hilarious. But no, it makes me happy, and I find it really ironic that we're asking this technology, right, to be self-aware almost, right? And of course, the debates about self-awareness and all that, oh my gosh, I can go on forever. Langdon Winner, do artifacts have politics? I told you.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, and it gives you a little, wow, this is better.
A little summary.
When I ask my students for like media, for sources, like background, and like to comment on things, and they can't even do this.
Yeah. No, this was great. I love this question, actually. I'm very happy.
Okay, let's see what it gave us. So, Winner, do artifacts have politics? Do you have that? Can you send it to me, please?
Of course.
The social construction of technology systems, new directions in the sociology and history of technology. Have you read that?
Which one?
Second one.
The second one. I might have come across it, but I do not remember it so far. Bruno Latour, yes.
Where are the missing masses? Send me everything you have.
Yeah, I will.
I like the summaries as well. Winner L. Upon
sources.
Lat box and finding. Oh, I need that one.
You do need that.
For my postdoc if I get it. Anyhow, I'm actually gonna save this conversation transcript, and I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna put it in the comments of the video for anyone.
Yeah.
Look at it,
That's really helpful, actually.
And the last one, the social shaping of technology. This book offers a collection of essays that discuss how social factors and power relations influence the design, development,
That's
and use
awesome.
of technology. This is
Doesn't
good.
make sense.
I don't understand why it gave me this when then it can give me. I think it's a matter of prompts, like how you
Yes,
ask.
exactly.
It's just weird. Give me reputable sources for this topic. Can you give me resources? So like they're both the same question.
Yeah.
But somehow I got confused. Anyhow, going back to
Yeah.
this, before I let you go all philosophy major on me,
Oh, go ahead.
I
I've said what I said.
that's what you said. I look at these definitions and I'm like, they can both coexist. Like I don't see them as inherently or diametrically opposed. I think there's something to be said that yeah, technology is neutral to a degree, but once it's implemented, it shapes things to ways and places that we did not predict. So social media
Yeah.
is neutral as a technology.
Yeah.
But because of how the human brain works, and I'm including every single human in the planet, it got mixed and it generated these issues, right? Like social media addiction, blah, 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 blah. But even that social media addiction is not inherently part of the technology, like determinism would say.
Mm.
That's the fault of marketing departments. Marketing, for those that don't know, I was involved in marketing at the very beginning of my life, or as a professional. And one of the things you find is that marketing, like businesses, firms, pay a lot of money to universities to determine how to generate addiction in people.
Yeah.
So
We've had these
things like
conversations too. Yeah.
loot boxes, things like subscriptions. That's the reason that everything is a subscription nowadays, because they figured out the best way to extract money from their client base. For some things makes sense, like Netflix, for example. But for other things like video games, it makes absolutely no sense. Anyhow, so a lot of things like we may think like the reason why social media is addictive is not because of the technology itself, but because it has been tainted, I'm going to say, with marketing research on addiction.
I understand what you're saying. However, I don't think we can anymore think about technology as an isolated thing. It involves all these different aspects of marketing. It involves research, all of these different things that together create a deterministic model for technology. That's, I think, where I would be wary about isolating one thing from, because you cannot divorce it anymore, is what I'm trying
No,
to
of
say.
course, because it enables it at the end. But the thing is, even that research is being shaped by human desires, and
Yeah.
those implementations that make it addictive, those implementations that make it exploitative, are actively being researched.
Yeah,
So,
but it's also an economical model too, right?
anyway, well, it's
Because
capitalistic.
yeah, and many different scholars have pointed this out, like how like there's a really good one by Nick Coldry and Ulises Ali Mejias. You know, they talk about how data has become a way to colonize people, and they specifically talk about the 4 different or 5 different ways of doing it, and the principles of technology encompassed with all these different aspects like research, marketing, have to do also with capitalism, right? And this economic model of extraction, profit, and progress, right? That has a specific end to it and does not have the people's minds or benefit at heart anymore, right? So that also is something I think is important to also note, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like I think what trying to say is like it's not just technological neutrality, it's not just technological determinism, it's something in between. It's a combination of both things. It is
Mm-hmm.
humans and it is technology, but at the same time, we cannot just say, "Oh, it's just technology," or "Oh, no, it's just the
No,
biases
it's
all the
exactly.
building."
It's a mix. You cannot
Yeah,
divorce them anymore.
yeah, exactly. I think that's the point.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, because I'm thinking of like nobody cared about social media for decades. Like, well, not decades, for like a decade. When you think about in the days before about GeoCities,
In the days and before
eh,
times.
in the before times, before Web point 2.0, whatever marketing calls it, uh, like you had GeoCities, you had MySpace, right? You
Uh,
had High Five, you
the
had
good
all
old
these
times.
things. And they did not have this brutal side of it that now permeates all social media. So, for example, and it was because it wasn't commercialized and say like you had ads,
Exactly.
that was it. And now, because back then you were the consumer of the product, like they would try to sell you things. They would say, "Oh, buy this book, buy this thing," and when you click, you would get the ad, and you would buy, and then the person would get a thing. Nowadays, you are the product,
Oh yeah,
right? You're the pig
definitely.
in the butchery. You're being fed for free, but in the end, you are the product. So I think that's a very human thing. That was a very capitalist
It
value
is.
extraction thing.
Yeah,
That was not technology. That was people. How do we turn these people's information into something financially written, like, well, exploit, well, it will generate us like insane amounts of money. And in the process of that question, you have to go, well, how do we monetize these people? How do we
yeah,
keep them engaged in this thing? How do we keep them playing? How do we keep them commenting? Well, we're going to create this thing that overvalues emotionality over information. We're going to allow every kind, like, and it also comes from a very American thing. Like, technology in general is very tainted by American exceptionalism.
so much so. Yes.
So it's this whole idea of, and you see it with Elon Musk, right? Like, oh, I'm a free speech absolutist, and yeah, I know. Um, and media in general uses that language constantly.
Mhm.
So a lot of the problems with social media are not technological. It's people. People that think that you should not censor things. It's people that think that, well, that know that far right content generates far much more interaction because, and this is the irony, left wing people engage with it a lot
Yeah.
because they want to debate it, and when they debate it, like, that's the thing. It's such a funny thing. You see it in comments like, why is this a thing? Why did you keep publishing these articles? You see that on
Yeah.
all sites, and it's like, well, because you're commenting, and that gets some clicks. So you're driving the engagement of this post by interacting with it. If you didn't interact with it, it would not be profitable.
But that's not how humans work, right?
I mean, I'm capable of saying and just keep moving, right?
But not everyone is what I'm saying. I guess the comment that I was going to say is that there is this now topic or this thing that has been called techno capitalism, and that is, how technology has been used as a tool now to drive the capitalist impulse forward towards
Yeah.
all these different ends. Most of them extractivist, most of them profit based, right? And all of that stuff. We can't divorce that anymore, I think is also the thing that I'm trying to say either, right?
I mean,
It's hard. It's very difficult
yeah,
because
I'm conflicted.
hmm,
I'm conflicted.
I the more I read about it, the more I see about it, it's very hard. There are, especially like through my research, there are some artists that are using, and this is going to be a very interesting debate to have at a conference that I'm actually going to very soon. How do artists, especially usually non-represented artists, right, use technology itself as a means to a different end? And that's always been a question that I've been really looking forward to answering and debating and really thinking about. It's a difficult one because, and this is something we talked about, right? How do we decolonize possibly new media when it has all of these different factors,
Yeah.
um, sort of lines, attached to it that is so difficult to disembed or disentangle. So we'll see how that goes, right? But I think it's also very similar to what we're discussing here too.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated in terms of, I don't know, like, I think that when we say it's the technology itself, it's a lot of us just trying to wash our hands of
Oh
responsibility.
yeah, I agree with that. That's why I keep saying it's very complicated. It's very embedded in all these different economic models, the capitalist economic models. It's very difficult to disentangle it anymore. Whereas before, like it's hard. It's a very difficult one. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and then there's the other thing that you really cannot be a subculture online. It's impossible.
Oh yeah. I completely agree with that.
You
Yes.
cannot be what's it called? You cannot go against the system within the tool of the system
That's
because
interesting.
they will
Some people would
allow.
disagree, but
No, no, hold on. Hear me out. Hear me out.
yeah.
It can be punk online. I can dress punk, I can perform the actions of punk. But the second I do something actually punk, I will get banned. I will lose my account on Facebook. I will lose my account on Instagram. I will lose my account on TikTok. And so what happens is that I become performatively punk.
Yes.
I become punk light, which is one of the big criticisms I've had of pop punk, for example.
Yeah.
I do not believe pop punk is punk at all. It's commercial. It's capitalist.
Yes.
It's all the things that's not supposed to be punk. A new, but new generations look at it and say like, yeah, no, this is punk, and it's not. But anyhow,
Yeah.
so that's my concern with this thing, right? So yeah, it's very. Is it punk really? I don't know. It feels complicated.
So the turn to that with I'm gonna say, because I've studied this extensively,
Okay.
is it is complicated. I don't have the answers, but while I agree with you that there's this really good book called Parasitical Resistance, right? And I can put the name of the book and the author in the comments, and sorry. But the author, she talks about how the only way to possibly resist is to have a parasitical relationship with the host. And what that means is having or being able to usurp or to disrupt or any word that you want to insert here within the inside. So that's something I've thought about a lot, because when you ask yourself the question, is there an outside to power? What would you say to that? Like, that becomes a very complicated.
Yeah, but I think like you're seeing it right now with Twitter. Like anything that talks about social justice disappears. Like it gets delisted, demoted, everything. But you see all these Nazi talking points nowadays on Twitter. That I don't even have an account anymore. And that's because Elon Musk is promoting far-right ideas while hiding everything left. So how can you be effectively counter-culture if your main tool deplatforms you instantly? So that's kind of my concern with that. Like, I think.
No, that's fair.
Anyhow, let's ask the last question we have,
which is a good one to end our debate or our conversation with too. I think. What is the future of technology and new media art? That's very similar to what it was talking about before.
It's just repeating the same point.
Oh.
So advances in emerging technologies, it's likely to be influenced by, of course, it's the new toy. It's also one of the biggest flaws in new media, like the new toy. Like new media arts are very fickle, and it's like, oh, we no longer do web art. It's like, why? Oh, because it's been done in the 90s. Yeah, sure, but there's new things in web art.
Yeah.
It just you just decided that it's done and moved on to new things. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's the whole point of what is the word? Never mind. Come back to me. I'll remember the word.
Blurring of boundaries. The boundaries between various art forms and disciplines may continue to blur. Well, yeah, that's the point, and that's why, like I'm saying, like new media art is no longer just computers, or should not be considered just computers.
Yeah.
Increased interactivity and participation. I don't know about that. I think that's already a thing, and it's been a thing, and it's a thing in art, in more traditional art, even. So that feels like I needed to fill my word count, kind of thing to me.
This I find interesting. The last two.
Yeah, ethical and social consideration. I mean, the whole point of new media art has been that since day one. I mean, Olga Lealina was very political. She was considering. Well, she's not dead. She was already considering like the politics of internet interactions and how these narratives were being used to communicate feelings and all these things. So I don't know. I think especially from the 2000s onwards, which is all as I think about it, it's 23 years ago.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my gosh.
It's already the past.
We're already the past.
So yeah, there's been considerations of ethical and social considerations for the whole time in new media.
They have, especially like you were saying with internet studies, like Lisa Nakamura, and a lot of feminist media theorists too. The problem is that, well, there's many problems, right? They didn't get, it was very siloed in academic thought That's one thing that's a huge discussion to be had.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I think that as innovation propels technology to move forward, they're like, oh, we can bypass this, or we don't have to consider this. There's that in like level of innovation that people are so drawn towards that they don't consider possibly sometimes the ethical implications and social considerations of stuff like that,
Well,
right?
that
Or
is
they think about it after the maybe.
yeah. I mean, because 40 years ago, Nam Jim Paik was doing that TV United States thing. I can't remember
Yeah,
the name of it. That's already asking and like the questions about the social like consequences of television.
yeah,
TV Buddha, which is even older, is like the 60s,
yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 80 years of politics in the media art. It's not something new. And
No,
as I
it's not,
say that,
definitely
it's
not.
80 years at the very, like, if you're very restrictive about your definition of new media art, is starting in the 60s, it's 83 years. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Of new media art.
no.
Like, yeah, I think this is well treaded. I mean, it's very obvious that it will continue, but it's not something that's new.
No, but it's
So
also
it's,
something that is necessary as because at the same time, while it was a social, political, or conscious thing that people and artists spoke about, or at least called out, right, back in the day, in the before times, I think there's a big separation involved in terms of the art and the academic fields versus the more practical technological field, right? They don't, or at least in the past, they did not cross.
yeah, I guess. I mean, if you ask of technology, yeah. If you ask in the terms of new media art, it's different, I guess. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
accessibility and inclusivity. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. This is one of the things like people don't understand when like you see artworks and they're like, "What's the point of this? What is it contributing to the world?" Well, sometimes it actually contributes like things like accessibility research or
Mhm.
things like that. So yeah, no, definitely collaboration and co-creation. Again, this is not a thing. Well, it's a thing, but it's not a thing that's like exclusive or new to new media art or
Yeah.
technology. So those ones feel a little bit more, I don't know, padding, I guess, in a way.
Hmm. Hmm.
It is a good answer. And I think we did get some. I mean, it's decent if someone asks these things. It's a good starting point.
It definitely is. Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I mean, as far as a learning model that's like spewing things, it's like meshing from everything it finds. The data set is not too biased.
I think I need more time to work
Yeah, we
with
would
it,
need a lot more, right? But
right?
it tries to give you like a balanced approach without two-siding things, which is also like not a really good thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, both-siding things more like.
Both siding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure. So I think it's decent. I mean, I wouldn't use it for an essay.
Yes, students do not use this for essays.
Yeah, it's not gonna be enough for anything above high school.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to pass a college degree.
Do not use this for your dissertation, people.
Can you? I mean, it would be interesting to do like your dissertation on generative models and AI, and then have
Like
it
an
write a
experiment.
role,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like saying, okay, like I did it with the generative model, but at the same time, it's how to say it, like it's edited by me. But that would be an interesting way of saying,
That would
like,
be cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
like it would be interesting to write an entire AI book or like the ethics of it and all that, and write it with this thing and have it.
It's a collaboration.
It's a collaboration with technology and with a semi-independent agent. Um, it's a liminal space. Oh my God.
Buzzwords here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, oh my God. I just have to ask that. I want to see what it says. Oh, we stumped it. Okay. It's actually an anthropology term? I didn't know that.
I did not know that either. Things you learn from ChatGPT.
That's an essay. Oh my God.
It is.
Oh, in large literal liminal spaces are sometimes explored to evoke feelings of disorientation, possibility, or transformation. They consider symbolic representations of the transition, personal growth, or societal change. Liminality is associated with a sense of openness, potential, and the exploration of new possibilities, but it can also be a state of vulnerability and ambiguity.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I like it. I need to use this now.
yeah.
Liminality.
This is. I mean, liminality has been a concept for a long time, but I think people misuse it a lot.
People misuse a lot of the buzzwords in academia, though.
Yeah,
That's
it's the female gaze, the male gaze. Oh my God, People do not understand that concept at
Have
all.
you heard about, people just using querying for everything?
Hearing? Yeah.
Querying, like it's lost its original meaning, I think, and that's anywho. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, liminal spaces. No, yeah, or like I had a student was asking, like, she came in very angry in class, and I was like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "I hate this professor." And it's like, "What happened?" It's like, "He just throws words at you." And it's like, "What was he talking about?" And it's like, "Well, he was talking about materiality, but I don't know what it is. He's never explained it. He just says, like, yeah, it's materiality." It's like, okay, hold on. So the easiest way to explain materiality is the thingness of things.
Thingness of that sounds very Heideggerian.
But it is the thingness of things, or the thingosity. No, it's the thingosity of things.
Thingness of things. I mean, it's very simplified, but yes, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a student in a bachelor degree. I'm not going to go into full, but it's
Yeah,
like at the very basic
yeah.
mentality. Let's see what it says. It's studying the qualities of things, because artists basically just refer as that, like exploring the material qualities of a thing. That's
Yeah.
what people like artists tend to mean.
Oh wow.
Okay, sign materiality refers to the deliberate exploration and emphasis on the physical properties and qualities of material. See, the thingosity of things. Artists and designers may focus on textures, surfaces, textures, and inherent characteristics of the material they work with. They may experiment with different materials such as wood, metal, clay, fabric, or digital media to create works that emphasize the unique properties of the potential of those materials. Yeah, the thingosity of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to go into ontology because no. Nobody wants to go into ontology.
I don't want to go into ontology.
It's like nobody likes ethics professors. Nobody likes ontology.
Aw.
That's a joke. But yeah, I'm not gonna go into materialism and all that. It's basically for the purpose of an artist, materiality just means explore the material qualities of a thing. The thing is the thingosity of the thing.
The thingosity of things. Yeah.
Because it
There
was in
you go,
Spanish, I
artists.
can't translate what I said. So it's like la cosez de las cosas, or la
Yeah.
cosicidad de las cosas. It's like,
Yeah.
the velocity of the thing, like what makes it what it is, physically speaking. So it's
But yeah.
like, yeah. So it does have some interesting things. Wait, there's materiality in accounting and finance. Oh my god. Okay, that's a new one. Anyhow, so with all that, do you want to add anything else? One last question?
No,
Anything?
I'm pleasantly surprised, but I still give it a B plus.
Yeah, I give it 2 electric sheep. Um, that's a very in joke. Well, not an in joke. It's a very nerdy joke. You know where it comes
Not
from,
for
right?
it. No, to electric sheep.
What?
To,
No? Do
no, do tell.
do androids dream of electric sheep?
Oh, but I didn't know. Okay. I could have surmised from that it was that book, but okay. Sure.
Yeah, it's just that. It's just like I
Oh,
give
okay.
it
I thought it was
electric
something
sheep.
deeper than that.
No, it's not deeper. Come on. Everything here is it's all vibes, no thoughts.
Oh,
Um,
fair enough.
anyhow, well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next episode, and thank you for joining us. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bye.